Hello, and welcome to the Innovate With Ludia podcast, courtesy of Ludia Consulting. I'm your host, Scott Lefante. On today's episode, we will be talking about the plight of the field service technician. Let's go ahead and get started. I am your host, Scott Lefante, and today I am joined by three wonderful people that I've known for quite a long time. Marcio Decat, Michelle Albright, and Murray Fife. It's a pleasure having all of you on one call. First off, it was an act of Congress to make this happen. So appreciate everyone, making the time to get on this podcast and really talk about something that I think is near and dear to all of our hearts, which is the plight of the technician and the technician experience. But just real quick, Marcio, Michelle, Murray, I know you're all respected in the community, in the industry. Just real briefly, I mean, if you could give our listeners a brief blurb about who you are and what you've been doing or what you are doing within the Microsoft stack and particularly AI and technician experience. So I'll let Mr. Fife go first.
Okay. So for all of you that don't know me, my name is Murray Fife. I work a lot in the supply chain stack for the Dynamics 365 products, but that has a lot of maintenance and technician work that's associated with it because everyone has things that they need to maintain. And so I've been working in this area in the Microsoft workspace for I think around about 14 years and maybe a decade before that in some other areas. But for me recently, I've been doing a lot with AI and learning a lot of the things that can be done, especially with finding out the real capabilities of things like the language models and notes and how we can sort of change these. And this I'll stop in a second, but this is really exciting for me because I've actually got a degree in artificial intelligence. It's a couple of decades old, but it's still valid. So when I first came into this market space, that's what I wanted to do. So now finally we're at this fruition point where we can start actually doing this, and the technician workspace is just a ripe area for us to take advantage of. I'll pass it on to Michelle.
Hi, everybody. I'm Michelle Albright. Been with Microsoft going on 8 years. Before that, I worked for 2 large partners. So I've actually been in the space since there were still floppy disks. I remember I was beta. I think it was 1.3, I think was the first version I worked on. Very long time ago with a very small partner, and just continued since. At the last partner I was at, I was actually building solutions for field service and helping with manufacturing and utilities and et cetera. And because there was no work order entity, there was not really a asset entity. There weren't these. So I was literally building these entities, and then all of a sudden, yay, Microsoft bought Field 1. So and then I worked for the partner for a little bit longer. So pretty much since I've been at Microsoft, it's been service, because I know field service and then project service, i.e. now project operations and customer service. So I did come before I became a GBB, I was in the retail space. So I am comfortable with the retail space. And I always get the question how does field service and retail kind of work together? And let me tell you, I can give you multiple examples because I can think of so many different ways to help the technicians. I mean, think about the people who go and fix the grills and the coolers at the fast food stores, or think about putting artificial intelligence like an IoT device on a cooler at like a major grocery store, because if that cooler goes out, they're losing millions of dollars worth of food. So things like that. So I always have great examples on the retail space. I work in a couple other industries, but retail is probably my key one.
Yeah, awesome. I think I can go next. So I'm Marcio Decat.
I think you can.
Yeah, I'm Marcio Decat. I'm based in Florida for some weird reason. Most of the field service family and community lives in Florida. Accent is from Brazil. So I'm on the business application road for most of my career, not necessarily only with Dynamics, but really like the last 6 years and 6 years and a half, I've been fully dedicated like to field service and mixed reality and truly like empower the frontline workers. So as Michelle, I'm also a global black belt with Microsoft, and we have a chance to not only on deals and directly with customers, but as well we have the privilege of being very close to our engineers and help it to shape and influence the direction of product on here. So yeah, and Scott, happy and thank you for having us here.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. Hopefully we'll have a really good conversation here. So I know, one of the things that we've been talking a lot about, and I've been working with Mr. Fife here now for about a month on a particular project, is that the technician experience and really the plight of the technician. And I think we can all relate to a technician that comes to our home and doesn't have either the proper information, so maybe he doesn't even have the right skill set, or doesn't have the right tools, or doesn't have the parts to fix it the first time. And we always talk about that with our customers, right? And talking about first time fix rate and why it's so important. And we talk about how it leads to frustration for commercial customers. We always forget about ourselves as well, that we have those experiences and share that frustration along with and how it impacts us. I think I was telling all of you earlier how I have my electric cooktop has an issue. Well, scheduled it. Guy came out yesterday, couldn't fix it because he didn't have the right information. Oh, I have to order parts. Could have probably have done that remotely in video and could have probably had the parts by now. But so it's frustrating for us. But I can't imagine how frustrating it is for a technician to have to come back multiple times because they don't have the right information or they don't have the right parts. And so, wanted to get, talk a little bit about that and have that empathy.
I'm laughing here because I lived this example recently. Like my TV screen was not working. So you start the call with the TV manufacturer. They place a call, you complete a form, and at the end of that call, the manufacturer already know that you're going to have to replace a part of your TV. But they work with a contractor. So the contractor show up in my house the first time and they look and say, oh, I don't have the part. So they booked that second appointment. And when he came and look and say, oh, I cannot do that alone. I need two technicians to do this work. I need someone to help me. So they book at the third time, disassemble the TV, and they look at each other and say, I don't know how to do that. So the technicians were in my house with the TV dismounted, parts everywhere, looking at YouTube videos and how to replace the screen of that particular TV on that. So definitely they don't have a good first-time fix rate on that. But you clearly could see that the technician is kind of shame. He's expressing like frustration with you. He wants to help you. Like he's face-to-face with his customer. He's face-to-face with me. He wants to help, but he could not help. So he was only able to help on this third attempt, and even though it was not a good experience on that. So yeah, I echo you the need of us having empathy and trying to perceive the world of frontline workers through their lenses, like through their eyes, and truly, what can we do to make their life better, right?
Yeah, and I think part of the issue, right? I mean, especially when we're talking consumers such as ourselves, is we're typically going to a manufacturer. The manufacturer is relaying it to a third-party service organization. Clearly, there's disconnects, and it could be disconnects between the information we're providing to the manufacturer, how they're gathering it, interpreting it, and whatever they're sending down to the third-party service tech organization. And then, of course, whatever the organization sends down to the technician. So there's at least 4 points of failure, more or less. And so the question is, how do we solve that? I mean, how do we solve that for these technicians who, right? A lot of them, I think the gentleman that came to my house yesterday, he was very experienced. He knew what the issue was. He just didn't have the parts. But there's others and Marcio, in your case, right, didn't know how to do it. And so is that a result of a new product? Is that a result of inexperienced technicians? Is that a result of not having the right data?
I think in my case was the three of them. I think there's a problem on the first one. Start with scheduling. Like you want to be scheduled to a work that you know you'll be successful on that role. The other piece is like parts management, and the last, I think, room is instructions and knowledge base and knowledge transfer, and what are the tools that we have in place to help technicians to be successful. But I think even on scheduling, there is a scheduling component. Am I scheduling the right person to do that job, or there is someone else better? Is this the right time for the technician?
Well, and I think also, going back to the AI piece of it too. I mean, if, now with the new Copilot within the Field Service mobile app, the fact that, or on Teams, you can ask, and I'm hoping the future will be AI will say, okay, you have this kind of TV, and this is the problem they said they have, and it can go back through all the previous visits, regardless of what technician it was and where it was, and say, oh yeah, by the way, for that product, this model, and this problem, here are the top 3 ways it was fixed. For AI to be able to pull that back, I mean, without even the technician asking, just literally go, or like maybe put into the phone, talk into the Field Service mobile app and say, how do I fix this? And it'd be smart enough to look at all those things and go, ta-ta. So that's again, when you go, that's the knowledge part of it that I think AI can help with.
And I see Murray's wheels turning. I see the smoke coming out of the ears. So go ahead, Murray.
And to add on to what Michelle was talking about, that's the golden egg that we're looking for, to know everything you need for that particular product, so that you can go out there, so that you're not going out there with just generic products, and possibly you're working on a particular machine and it requires this sort of transformer, it requires this sort of inverter for a TV, or I had a TV it was an older TV, but it had like 5 transformers in it, and they all blew, which is why it didn't work anymore. But it was a particular model, and there's with mature field service organizations, you're almost drowning in information, because you've got all this historical information that Michelle was talking about, that on how people have fixed things in the past. But for a person to go out and get that, to work that out, it's onerous, because you're not going to go, you can do some filters, you can do some searches, but it's just like going to forums to try to work out how to fix a problem with your computer, or how to do some programming things. Everyone's got an idea, and you have to wade through everything, and it takes forever until you find the little nugget that you need. And that's where where AI can help, especially with notes and instructions, because it can just ingest all of this information and then distill it down to what it needs. It's sort of got most of the answers there already. You just have to ask the right question, and then so that's for mature products. But for the new products, then you've got the other side, that you don't know what to fix. Maybe it's the first time you've ever encountered something like this. Maybe you've had some training, but there's manufacturer information. So getting that manufacturer information in to augment the tribal knowledge that everyone has, so that you can solve what Marcio was talking about, have the right parts to solve the most common problems, so that you can
add one more
ingredient.
Can I add one ingredient to what you were just saying, Murray? Like IoT data, there is this vast amount of data that we could be leveraging on, and using AI to extract some meaningful information from that. So what's your vision on that, and combining like IoT with AI to assist the frontline worker?
So for me, I did a lot. Last year, I did a lot of work with IoT and getting the information in, but it's still a number crunching exercise, and that's it uses the other side of AI, which is the statistical modeling, the sort of statistical machine learning, the number of machine learning, as opposed to the language machine learning to go out and start predicting things. And I don't know. As you get to more of the higher end products, then the connected products, then this information is going back to the manufacturers. But how easy is it to get back to the service arm to gather that information? It's all pieces. It's the tribal knowledge, the people knowledge, and the system knowledge.
And you raise a great point, right? Because we all have connected devices. I mean, I'm looking at my phone right now, and I have a robot vacuum, and it tells me when parts need to be replaced based on runtime. My washer and dryer that I had replaced because it would cost so much to repair it is easier just to replace it, right? They're all connected. They all have AI features and functions. And the question becomes like, well, that's great if I get an error code, but now I have to research it, right? Unless I can just reboot it, it's like, oh, it's self-explanatory. Oh, it got like the robot vacuum got stuck on something, so it's got an error code. Okay, great. But a washer and dryer that has an error code, typically I need to research it. What does it mean? I don't know, right? And typically, if I see an error code over and over again, probably means I want to have it serviced. I want someone to look at it. It would be ideal if that went back to the manufacturer or
automatically
or a service provider like my pool system does, and go back when there's an issue and say, hey, Mr. Lefante, we noticed there's an issue here. Probably going to want to send somebody out.
Or before the issue, right? Like one use case that I like to talk a lot is helping customers to go from a preventive maintenance maturity to a predictable maintenance, to say
yes.
What we want from a machine learning model is something like on those lines, like there is a 90% of chance that your equipment is going to fail next week. So you want to, instead of replacing that part on the user recommendation for the manufacturer, you want to extend that part, the lifetime of that part, but you need some predictive model to let you take action before on that. Like Michelle and I usually are demonstrating lots of how field service helps with this action piece, right, Michelle? Like, we receive alerts, but the alert itself is nothing if you're not going to take an action with the alert.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. And I think to that point, right, and what Murray was saying as well, is that we can gather all this data, right? So if I have a pool pump that runs X number of hours, and all of a sudden we start seeing, right, okay, there's 50 other pool pumps in the area that this particular organization services, and they start seeing failures at certain runtime intervals. Well, to Murray's point with that data, being able to ingest it and say, hey, Scott, you know what? You've been running it for 900 hours. At about 1,000 hours, we've seen that this thing requires, either this maintenance or you're going to have a failure. Sort of like a vehicle, right? I mean, vehicles have, suggested
warn you when you need your oil changed, right?
Warn you when you need your oil change and everything else. Your tires are low or things of that nature. But hey, we're going to get you to that preventative model more, proactive. And I think in our other scenarios here, I think it also would be helpful to get to that prescriptive model. And that's where I think, Murray, you talking about machine learning and all those algorithms and understanding where, hey, that's great that you do all this maintenance on your HVAC system or your pool or your TV is, you have your latest, software updates or what have you. But it would be great to know, like, this thing's going to fail in about 2 months, so you might want to do something about it. And the question becomes, how do we get there? I mean, I know that there's organizations at all different maturity levels. We got organizations right now that are ingesting Copilot and AI. There's ones that are just starting out with IoT, and then there's ones that are really just starting their journey. in field service. But I mean, how do we get there? How do we get to this model where, one, we're providing this information to customers, but we're also, if we go back to the technician, we're providing it for the technicians to do their jobs to the best of their capabilities, with having that right data and being there at the right place at the right time.
I think like we got to think too. It's easy to think about apps and solutions for people like us who work in an office with a keyboard, but I think we are in a point of inflection now that it's really how to feel more. We need to feel more empathy about the frontline workers and see and ask what are the right tools that they need to perform their work. Having to what Michelle was saying, think about the Copilot for the field service mobile app, and how that Copilot add value for the frontline worker, and not only gathering information, but also assisting them to complete their task or to review their jobs. I think this is the right direction on that, to truly be an assistant to them.
Yeah. The talk to text feature, I think, is huge because, I always, especially, right as Marcio said, we both live in Florida, so it's a little chilly here today, but overall it's not so cold. Yeah, but it's not super cold ever. But you think of those technicians who are outside and they've got gloves on and they've got, they just don't want to be taken off their gloves to then type in what they did as a note or complete a task on their phone. So the fact that they now can say, I just arrived and I'm about ready to open, and it can literally go and actually check them in and bring up the first task for them. Things like that, I think, will very much so help the technicians and make them happier. It'll make their job much easier.
Yeah, do you know something that I think it's cool but makes total sense for me is, while we as field services sellers and who understand the market, and we understand the importance of step-by-step instructions to be provided in a field service mobile app for organization, safety, and protocol, and everything that comes with it. But in real life, you have those very experienced field technicians, the frontline workers, that they don't need an app to tell them what to do. They know how to follow those step-by-step instructions.
Right.
But they need to coexist with other colleagues who does not, that they need to follow. So I thought it was amazing the vision of, now we have Copilot that technician can execute the task, and at the end of the work order, he'll say, I did those tasks, and now Copilot can do those tasks for them. It's Copilot being proactive and say, you should have done a safety check or executed the maintenance and then clean up the work. Did you do those tasks? And if you interact with Copilot, say yes, Copilot will complete those tasks on behalf of the technician. So that's another side of the use of AI, is not only understanding language and give you insights about lots of data, but also give you the recommended tasks and actions that you should take. And then with plugins, take the actions on your behalf. This is a new evolution of that.
And also recommending, again, not only how to fix it, but by the way, here are the products you should have on your truck before you go out there to fix this. So, again, it helps with the first time fix rate. So they're prepared. Every time, again, this TV model A, had this problem, I needed these 3 things to fix the issue.
Yeah, I think one of the other things, and you both touched on it, is the fact that, right, with Copilot, you coexist with the experienced technician and the inexperienced technician. To your point, Marcio, I completed this work order. I know all the steps. I don't need to follow it step by step and go into the task. Whereas maybe my counterpart next to me has no clue, and he's going to want to look at those tasks, each one in sequential order, to make sure he or she is doing it correctly. So, but with Copilot, now I don't have to. If I know the steps, I do this with, I can do this with my eyes closed. I've done it 1,000 times. Yep, I completed my job, blah, blah, blah. Let's go on to the next one, right? I can get the customer signature, whatever it may be. I think that's where I think part of the value is, a small portion of the value of Copilot, because we all know that there's there's a huge portion. I mean, it's just constantly evolving and growing. And even I'm playing around with things where I'm having it ingest data from, different sources, right? It could be knowledge articles, it could be a website, it could be, dynamics data, and I'm having it, ingest all of this information so that, if I'm a technician, I can say, hey, how is my solar box, combiner box, how do I troubleshoot this? And then it comes back and says, well, what's your issue? Well, here's my issue. And then it spits back the information from the knowledge article or the website or wherever it may be that it determines is the best place to grab that information. And so there's tremendous value in where I think AI and Copilot are going in assisting and hopefully aiding the plight of the technician.
So, Scott, I would say, Mario, create the floor for you, because a couple of weeks ago I was attending this energy event that happens here in Orlando called Distribute Tech, and had a chance to look at lots of innovation. I dare to say that basically half of the event was about like AI and IoT and connecting signals to things that are monitoring energy assets. And I know, Murray, you are very versatile and have a passion about like asset management on this, but I saw things like a car that has installed like thermal cameras on top of the car, and other types of special cameras that the driver is driving while the car is monitoring the power lines, and it is trying to find like defects or potential point of failures or things like that, and collecting this vast amount of data. At the same time, I was in touch with a company who has they basically has a satellite solution that can monitor to the centimeter level of things like this bush moved, or there is a landslide, or a gas leak in a let's say in a oil and gas industry. And they collect all this data from satellites and the data from monitoring, and then they give this to their customers so their customer can take action. So, Murray, what's your vision on that, of using this vast amount of data, but how can we connect this into give an action to this? What are we going to do now that I found a problem on that?
So we've talked we talked about the language models, the GPT and so forth, which is more of the human interaction. Then we talked about the IoT, which is the system communication that then maybe we can crunch down. But Marcio, what you brought up is that there's other areas of AI that are mature, and we're getting more value out, like the machine vision. So vision can be used for documents. It can go out and it can describe diagrams or summarize diagrams, so that then we can use those in the language models. But also we can go out and identify things in images, like you were talking about, where there are anomalies, or maybe there's cracks, or maybe there's something in an image. We're getting all this vast information back. Then there's this new frontier of things where we could go out and say, take this image. We've taken a picture of a bridge, for example, and maybe we want to identify some weak points, rust, steel bridge, rust areas, or maybe we're going out and looking, we're looking at infrared images, maybe we're looking at methane buildup in certain areas for the sustainability people. But the machine vision is going out and allowing us to have it summarize these really complicated sort of concepts, which are pictures themselves, and then give us that information back so that we can go out and we can do more with it. So this, where not only are we sort of getting, not removing, but we're augmenting the meter counters, going out there and counting things with IoT devices, like they just installed on my propane tank. After it went down to like 2% fill, they decided to put an IoT device out there to find out when it goes down. And then not only getting people from not having to wade through manuscript, the overabundance of manuals that are out there, but also where we've got this help that we can, this vision help that could be like on our shoulder, metaphorically on our shoulder, helping us find things that are in our vision area that we need to address. So there's, and that's just some of the new capabilities in AI, or some of the newly usable and maturing products that we can take advantage of. So all of these things are super interesting and super cool.
We are in a moment that we're able to combine all those different machine learning technologies and AI technologies, and combine it. We can get even more value from them and take better actions or recommendation for those.
And it's not to replace people.
No, it's to help them.
Not yet.
Well, that's why we call it Copilot, because it's not the pilot, it's the co-pilot. You're helping you're helping them, right?
I have seen some robots though at restaurants that are coming and serving people, and because no one wants to do those jobs apparently. But to your point, I think in arts, what we're really talking about is that co-pilot factor, right? It's another tool in the tool belt of, in our case, the technicians or the service-based organizations as a whole.
Agreed.
Yeah, it's like I heard that from a colleague another day, that we are all somehow afraid of what AI technology can do, but it's kind of, I see as a new calculator. Like years ago, we need to do the math by hand, and then with calculator augmented my capacity of doing calculations. I think that's how I see Copilot as of today. I don't know where this is going to land or how far we're going to be in general artificial intelligence, but as of today, it's a reality. It's not the future, it's present right now. Like, it's tools that we have in our hands to augment our work and make us more productive or happy. Maybe we're going to free time to do other things or to focus on where I think I can add more value.
Yeah.
I heard, I forget who I was talking to, but they made a interesting point that AI as a co-pilot, as a support tool, it improves the value of the newer, lower, more inexperienced people up to a higher bar. It's not. It doesn't accelerate and make the people at the top just blow out their numbers, but it raises this lower bar so that you can be more consistent, and everyone can be closer to the expert sort of level if they take advantage of it and if they embrace it.
It can be more inclusive too. Like for me, there's two scenarios where I think AI is inclusive for me. Like one is I'm not neurotypical, so it's difficult for me to catch up on messages and emails and things like that. And I'm using Copilot to help me not only to find what's important that I missed, that I forgot to take an action, and English is my second language. So if I need to write a complex email and things that it might be simple for you, the three of you, but was not for me, takes time. And now Copilot helps me to get there in a formal way faster. So I
English
still need
is my
to
first
give
language.
my ideas, but
English is my first language and only language, and I still have problems, Marcio. So you're okay. You're okay,
I lost my Portuguese. I don't speak Spanish anymore, and my English still sucks. I'm on the language limbo. Like, I don't speak any of those correctly anymore, but that's fine.
You're okay in our book. And I know we're just about out of time here, so I wanted to wrap up and see if there's any parting thoughts for our listeners from the three of you, something that they can come away with, or just a little nugget to think about going forward. That's a good one, isn't it?
Yeah. I think just what kind of Marcio just said is that I think we're all of the age. I won't say our ages, but we're all of the age that we remember the dial up, and then I remember the big fat phones, and then like I said, I used to have a floppy disk. Now our laptops don't even have a place, because everything's downloaded. So I've had this conversation with my husband. I was like, Dad, I think 20 years ago, would I ever have thought the things that we have available to us would be available? Like, just the smartphone even. I mean, that kids are so, I'm like, God, I wonder 20 years from now, what will be like, oh my God, that stupid smartphone, and oh, AI, that's, I'm very excited to see what's, 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now. So hopefully I'll be retired in 20 years, but 5, 10, 15 years from now.
Perfect. What about you, Marcio or Murray?
I think what is in my head right now is, as I have multiple of my friends on the spectrum of resisting the AI change and the momentum that AI is bringing, I think about instead of resisting on this is how can I take advantage of this to make my life better, and beyond that, like how could I use this type of technology to really to help other people around me, like to a point, like to help someone who needs to grow in their career or make their life better, and how can we use this technology to empower myself and empower the others. I think that's a better way to deal with this momentum that we are right now, instead of just saying I don't trust this and I want to resist, because you might be losing an opportunity, you might be losing the momentum of it.
Yeah, and for me, we're at a technology sort of tipping point, and there's been a lot of these, a whole slew of them over time. And even yesterday, I saw on social media, someone was going around and they said, "Why are there even scientific calculators anymore?" There was a Texas Instrument selling for $104 or something like that, when you could do all that. But it's those were cutting edge for some of us and needed, but you have to let go, and you have to accept and embrace what's coming down the pipe. But I've found that it's not, these new AI tools haven't dumbed me down, which is sort of what people are scared of, that the AI is going to do all the work for you. I use like Grammarly for all the time to fix up my writing, and that's a simple part of AI, but that's it. As it's done that, I've paid attention, so my writing's actually better. And then with other tools like the image generation, like Midjourney and some of the other tools, so getting more on the creative side, or some people say plagiarism side, that I'll never be able to paint, but I'll be able to create good images for PowerPoints and things like that. But it's opened my eyes to think about art, different art styles. So it's all of these things. The copilots are just getting rid of this clutter that take us time to work through, so that we can experience better and more higher level things than just having to spell check a document or things like that. So I think AI is good. However it turns out over the next 20 or so years.
Yeah, I guess time will definitely tell. But I know we're just about out of time, so I want to thank the three of you for joining today and sharing your wisdom and experiences throughout your journey to get from the floppy drive and the floppy disk to AI and IoT and machine learning. So it's definitely been a fascinating conversation. I thank the three of you, and we will talk soon. Thank you for listening to the Innovate with Ludia podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast app and follow us on LinkedIn. Until next time, I'm Scott Lefante.